Jesus continues to teach us the ways of God, but also challenges how we respond to how God comes into our life. And so we see that the sower of the seed almost very extravagantly throws the seed in all sorts of directions. Some fall on a footpath, others on rocky ground, others where there are thorns that choke it, and others that come on good soil. It is Jesus' way of telling us about the extravagant mercy of God. And by using this image from nature, he communicates to us that the very nature of God is to be extravagant with his mercy. That should be a real consolation to all of us, especially as we look at our lives that so easily fall apart and fall into sin. And we wonder whether or not we can start again. Today, Jesus tells us of God's extravagant mercy. But he also challenges us to see that we need to cultivate good soil in order for that seed of God's mercy to take root in our lives. And there are aspects of good soil that we should consider. The first thing is that good soil is very simple. It's uncomplicated. It doesn't have rocks and stones, weeds or roots that complicate it. Sometimes we hear that something is as simple as dirt, as plain as dirt. That means, in fact, that dirt is what is, and there is nothing that complicates it. And so too in our lives, we can become so very complicated. We can begin maybe to think about the worries that we have in the world because there are many possessions that we have to guard, or maybe we begin to allow our lives to get into the affairs of other people's, become in some way nosy about what's happening in their life, and complicate our life that way. Jesus tells us today that sometimes when we complicate our lives, overly complicate them unnecessarily, we do not allow the seed of God's mercy to come into our lives because our cares and concerns are directed to something else. We're not attentive to God's mercy. But we also know that good soil develops. That's why we have crop rotation, where new nutrients come into the soil and can develop. And so too in our lives. We can never give up on ourselves to the point where we feel that we really don't have to grow anymore. It was St. John Newman who said that to live is to change, but to be perfect is to change often. And so in our lives, just like soil needs to develop in order to be enriched by the nutrients, so our lives do. Maybe by taking time out for reading, prayer, meditation, rather than maybe sitting in front of the television all the time, but looking for a way in which our lives can grow and that we can change and become better. And finally, the aspect of soil that we should be attentive to is that it reacts to the environment that's around it, whether it's the sun or the rain, the snow cover that comes for winter wheat, or even the wind that blows off the topsoil. It has to react to what is happening around in its environment. So too our lives have to react in a way that is in touch with the reality around us. Being a Christian is not going into hiding, but it's living in the real world, facing the challenges that we have, rather than walking away because the world seems in some way to be hostile to us. The Holy Father is continually asks us as a church to be a field hospital, to interact with the world and not be afraid of it. We're not a fortress in which we build a moat around ourselves and hide, but we interact with the world. And so today Jesus teaches us about the mercy of God. It's very extravagant. It's very open to everything that we need. God does not count the cost of being merciful to us. It is his nature. But so too our nature is one like soil, good soil, that must be open to God's word by being uncomplicated, not having so much clutter in our lives that we don't take time out for our own faith development and our own worship and prayer. And so too, we need to look for concrete ways in which we continue to develop as persons, maybe in ways in which we learn to forgive other people that we have held different grudges and resentments towards, or maybe becoming more generous. And finally, we need to as well react to the environment around us, not being afraid of the changes that come, but really realizing that in the simplicity of our lives, God's grace and mercy will always be there. And so today, let's learn from the teaching of Jesus. Have confidence in the extravagant mercy of God, but take up the challenge of cultivating good soil.